Welcome to episode 34 of Ralph's Stuff. Tonight we feature a segment on my obvious love of technology, and you'll find out a whole lot more about that coming up next. And also we have a trip to and through West Asheville. I think you'll find that interesting, those of you who have been there and those who might want to go. So on with the show, and again, thanks for dropping by. We always appreciate it. Hello, I'm Ralph Roberts, and welcome again to Ralph's Stuff. This is episode number 34. Ralph's Stuff, of course, is a weekly TV show here on Channel 20, URTV, in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of the sky. It airs every Tuesday at 8:30, and this is one of 3 shows that I have weekly on Channel 20. Ralph's Stuff's my experimental platform where I try out different techniques and so forth that I use on my other shows and for the various other things I do in video production. Tonight we're experimenting with 2 cameras, so you get 2 points of views, which when I edit I'll cut back and forth between them just to make the show a little bit more interesting for you. And I think you'll enjoy it. One of the things I wanted to talk about during this segment is my love of technology. And technology, naturally, is what makes all this possible. I started out in the 1950s, and I mentioned this 2 or 3 shows ago when I did a show on Old Time Radio with a Philco shortwave radio that was made in the 1930s. My dad had given it to my mother as a present when they were courting, and I discovered it in the early 50s when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and it totally fascinated me. I discovered how to click it on the shortwave band and listen to Radio America and Radio Canada. Ici Radio Canada, I still remember that, because they'd identify in both English and French. And Radio Moscow in English, HCJB in Quito, Ecuador was an interesting station. It was run by missionaries down there. And so I firmly fell in love with radio and technology in general. So by the time I was in high school in the early 60s, anything related to technology was of interest to me. And I discovered amateur radio. I learned Morse code, and I took my license test and passed it. I built my first receiver, I built my first transmitter, and I had a wonderful time with those, talking all over the world. Talking and also using Morse code. So again, technology moved on. Amateur radio back in the those days was much like the internet today, in that you really had a network, although you were connecting one person at a time, and you might be talking to a guy in England one day, and the next day you were talking to people in South America or in Australia. All of it was really nice. In fact, I still have my amateur radio license. I've kept it current all this time. WA4NUO are my call letters for those of you interested in ham radio, and quite a few people know me. I talk to zillions of people, so I was pretty well known in amateur radio. But in the 1970s, the personal computer started coming along. In 1976, I discovered personal computers and built my own. When you're a very early adapter of technology, you got to get out the old soldering gun and soldering iron and do a little hands-on work to learn it. But by 1978, I was already on the internet, or what was a precursor of the internet, ARPANET, through the local college, and had a lot of fun with that. I had a 190 baud modem. It's 190 characters per second, which sounds really fast, but compared to the 1.5 million characters per second I have as a connection now, I have a T1 line, then that wasn't very much at all. But I found that surfing the networks on the internet was very much like uh, more like amateur radio than amateur radio itself in a way. So I really got into learning about computers in 1978. Also, I started writing about computers because it seemed that not too many people understood them, and to me they appeared to be relatively simple. In a position I still hold today. More about that in just a moment. So since then I've written close to 100 books explaining computers and thousands of articles. I made quite a good living for a good many years simply by taking computer manuals and turning them into plain English. So there's a whole industry on that which still continues. So it's a pretty good deal. But to get back to technology in general, computers in specific, the reason I suppose the majority of people have trouble with new technology simply because they're not willing to accept the way it operates on its own level. Computers are exceptionally simple. They're based on the binary codes, ones and zeros, representing on and off states. That's it. You know, a computer instruction is based on and off, on and off. Whereas in normal everyday life, we see things as analog. You know, my hand as it moves across is in many different positions as it goes. It's not on or off. It's moving across. So we tend to try to make things complicated when we look at computers. And anytime you go into a computer and try to make it complicated, you're going to mess yourself up, I guarantee you. I once wrote a little article called Ralph's 10-Minute Guide to 400,000 Programs or something like that. I forget the exact title. But it's like reading a page in a book. We pick up books and there are many different font styles, but we can still read them. We don't have to think about it. We don't try to make it complicated. Computers are that same way. This is a pet subject of mine. I'm going to write another book on it. Computer literacy. Computer literacy is just like the literacy involved in reading. Once you learn to read, it becomes automatic. And I've used computers for so many years and accept them on their own terms that I can sit down in front of a new computer with a new program and use it almost immediately because I don't have preconceived notions on, see if that's the correct way to put this. Let me restate that slightly differently. I know the very few things a computer can do, and that's all any program, any software can do. So once you know that, you can operate any software. They really run the same. That's what throws people off. They look at them, they got different colors, they got different pictures, they got different logos. They all run the same way. The only thing you have to know is what tasks you want to accomplish and how can you accomplish it with this particular software. So it deserves a whole book to explain it, but it's really incredibly simple. So make friends with computers and they'll treat you nice. Now computers are much more widespread than people realize. Computers are run by what's called a microprocessor, which is a small integrated circuit, yay big or that big, depending on the brand and the type and so forth. Microprocessors are in almost everything these days, your refrigerator, your furnace. These two cameras that are looking at me right now are run by microprocessors. So again, if you know what a computer can do, you know what your camera can do, you know what your refrigerator can do. These things, this is what I'm trying to get across to you. This is why I love technology. It's so darn simple that anyone can use it. You know, one of the cliches in learning how to use a computer is go out and find a kid to show you how it works. Well, the reason kids are so good with computers, they don't try to make them complicated. They know what they can do. They turn them on. They do this, they do that because it's simple and they know the computer will do it. That's all you got to do, make it simple. The old acronym Keep It Simple Stupid, KISS, applies to computers in a major way, believe me. Speaking of technology, of course, I learned amateur radio. I learned computers in the 1970s. Also, at the same time, I was involved in, I owned part of a stereo company in Asheville, and we sold stereo equipment, and I also moved into video, and so video cameras and video recorders, and I did professional sound work. I ran the sound for Vice President Mondale and 10 other governors at the Appalachian Regional Governors Conference. I think that was either 78 or 79. And did many other things relating to professional sound. And also started doing the sound for industrial films in the late 70s and early 80s. So I got into production and then on into video production. So I've been doing video production now almost 30 years in one form or another. And technology keeps getting better and better and better until now, where I can actually have my own equipment right here in my own office and do wonderful things with it, such as these shows for URTV on Channel 20. And allows me to sit here with two cameras looking at me and espouse my love of technology. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And this was totally off the cuff. I didn't write it. I just sat here and talked to you about technology, trying to convey a feeling rather than just actual facts. But again, when you get right down to it, technology is what? Simple, 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 easy. Anyone can do it, even me. So onward and upward, and join us here on Channel 20 and producing your own shows. Get out there on the internet and do all sorts of wonderful things, and use your computer for the betterment of humanity. Thank you, and all the best. This is Ralph Roberts from beautiful downtown Alexander, North Carolina. This was the final test of my latest camera mount that I used to mount the camera in the car for the TV show I do called Rapid Ralph Runs the Roads, which is on every Saturday at 6 p.m. on Channel 20 here in Asheville, the land of the sky, etc., etc. And again, this was the final test before I actually went into production with using this mount. It's a device that attaches to the headrest supports on the back of my seat, and you mount the camera on it, which is to my immediate left. I'm sorry, to my immediate right. That's your other right hand, Ralph. To my immediate right. In other words, right next to my right ear. And it gives you pretty much a driver's eye view. And by using a wide angle lens, you get pretty much the entire windshield. In fact, I actually got zoomed out a little too much. I'm not showing the complete view from the front, but it's still pretty good here. We're on Mount Carmel Road now, approaching the New Leicester Highway, out in the West Buncombe section of Buncombe County, the county in which Asheville is located. And until we can figure a way to move it out of the county, at least. Yeah, we're those of us who live in the county are not real happy with the current city government in Asheville, and more that's beginning to be the opinion of those who do live in Asheville, especially after the recent fiasco over partisan elections as opposed to open elections for city council. So that's still to be resolved as I do this broadcast. Hopefully we're going to see a recall election. But meanwhile, we have the problem of getting onto the 4-lane. That is Highway 63, the new Leicester Highway. And while we wait here, a quick lesson in pronunciation for those of you who are new to the area, which is about 93% of people around these days. Very few of us natives left. But Leicester is spelled L-E-I-C-E-S-T-E-R. And many newcomers tend to pronounce it Leicester or Leicester. Both are wrong. The correct pronunciation, like the old Elizabethan English from which Leicester came, is Leicester. Like it was spelled L-E-S-T-E-R, but it's not. It's L-E-I-C-E-S-T-E-R. Leicester. Okay, so we're on the new Leicester Highway now, moving in towards Asheville. Irwin High School is off over to the left there. Just to orient you, for those of you who may actually know the area. And we are approaching the... guess I had to stop at the bank. But we should be back in motion almost momentarily. Okay. Yeah. Get out. Okay, good. I'm sure I was putting money in rather than taking it out. That's usually what I do when I go to the bank there. If I take it out, I just write a check somewhere. Or use a debit card. This is the new electronic money of choice these days, it seems. But now we're back on the road. We're approaching the extraterritorial limit. Actually, ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction of Asheville. That's the distance out for a mile beyond the city limit, so we're a mile from the city limit. We didn't see it in this footage, but just to the left there we just passed is a huge red and white no zoning sign. We just don't like zoning out here in the county, and we don't think it's working even in the city. So anyway, onward and upward. So much for politics. But I do like to get that in from time to time, that there's more than one view about the city of Asheville. Asheville and its people we like. It's just the way the current philosophy of government in Asheville's totally wrong. Other than that, it's okay. So we're now within the city limit. No, it's about another quarter of a mile to the city limits here. But we'll be entering Asheville shortly. To be specific, West Asheville. West Asheville used to be an independent town, but like many other small towns in the area, West Asheville, Otene, Biltmore, which was a separate town, not Biltmore Forest, but Biltmore itself was a separate town, which was absorbed into Asheville. Oakley, Grace. There were a lot of little towns that now are just communities that were once independent. I've evinced the ideal a number of times in things I've written, and in other ways that it might be nice to break Asheville back down into its component towns, and rather than having one big entity. But I know I'm going against the conventional wisdom of the powers that be. But maybe we can change our mind one of these days. Anyway, nice day. This was done in early June, and when we still had rain. We've been without rain for most of June, and it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's still plenty of sun, and I had to go over to the other side of Asheville, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to test out the new camera mount, which is doing super good, by the way. It's I've already done one complete 1 hour show using it, which some of you may have already seen here on Channel 20. Up and down. Oh, shouldn't have done that. That's the people at the bank gave me a cookie. Chocolate chip. It was really, really good. Fresh, hot baked cookie. My bank actually has a small oven and they bake the cookies fresh. Now that's it's not the only reason I do my banking there, but it's about, I don't know, 89% of it. I like good fresh cookies. They also have great coffee. Too many banks these days are impersonal, and they don't really care whether you come in give them your money or not. But this particular bank, they like to get my money. They're not too keen on giving it back, but who is? Anyway, so I had a nice little had a nice little snack there, which kept me going. Excuse me. And we're now at a stoplight. There used to be a restaurant right there on the right, a Mexican restaurant, but I noticed it has left. It is no longer there. I mean, the building is gone, which is pretty much of a clue that the restaurant is closed. I'm sure they'll build something. This is on Patton Avenue West now, which is one of the hot areas for development in Nashville, so I'm sure somebody else will build another restaurant there very quickly, or some other type of business. So Patton Avenue West is perhaps where Tunnel Road was in the scheme of development about 10 or 15 years ago, which means we're going to see a rather rapid increase in stuff out through this area, which is good. I hope we get some good restaurants. We were supposed to get one of the major box stores, big box stores out here, but some of the people, neighborhood people we call them, banded together and stopped that, which we think was a mistake, but I'm sure the developers will eventually prevail. I'm not in total favor of everything being developed like it is, but we could use a bit more stuff in the west part of town. We've been getting the short end of the stick, whereas Hendersonville Road and Tunnel Road and area south of Asheville has been getting the good stuff. So we need a big computer parts store out here and other stuff like that. We really do. I've just now turned onto Haywood Road. This is the main drag of West Asheville. So you'll get to drive down through there with me. West Asheville's changed a lot since when I was growing up. In the 1950s, West Asheville, although it was part of Asheville by then, was still pretty bucolic compared to downtown Asheville. In fact, they had a farm tractor dealership on this road, and we had that particular brand of tractor. There's a police substation. There's a library on the right. That's a good library. West Asheville Baptist Church, where I got married, and but anyway, we had that particular brand of tractor, so we came up here quite often to get parts and stuff when the tractor would break, and tractors break a lot. They get a lot of rough service on farms, plowing and hiring and cutting hay and all the other things that we had to do with it. Took a toll on it, but it was sure better than doing it by hand or even using horses like when I was very, very small. I remember when we had horses instead of a tractor. But the times have changed on West Asheville, or in West Asheville rather. A lot of new young people have moved in that, for lack of a better term, we call yuppies. Those of us who are local. And So there's a lot of new shops of a sort that we didn't see years ago, and some of them are quite enjoyable. There's some nice little restaurants and interesting shops, so it's not a total loss. And I come through West Asheville quite often. I used to work up here. Back in the late 80s, I edited a newspaper that was published on down the street here. So I had to come in every day. But now I just have to drive through occasionally, which is a little bit better since, despite the fact I'm reasonably sophisticated and I've authored over 100 books now, I'm still basically an old country boy. I don't like towns. Don't like towns at all. Prefer to have my civilization spread out just a little bit more with room in between the people. But that's personal preferences, I suppose. And we're going down Brevard Road now. It's just a shortcut I take. It's probably a little faster if you go take Patton Avenue to where the intersection with I-240 and take I-240 going west from Asheville, but I just enjoy this drive more. And I've been doing it since before 240 was built, so it's somewhat easier. And there's only a minute or two difference from in the time it takes to cut through Asheville here. We're going down towards the National Guard Armory now, which will be over on the right in about a quarter of a mile. When I got out of the regular Army and came back from Vietnam, I actually joined the National Guard. I was in it for several years. They do a great job. I have very high respect for our National Guard's men and women. Brave people. And they live right here at home, which is a good deal. Here in the mountains of western North Carolina. Now we're getting ready to cross Interstate 240 on still on Brevard Road. If we'd wanted to get on the interstate, we could have done it here simply by turning right. But we didn't want to, so we didn't. We sit here patiently. There it goes. The red light just turned green. It's a pretty neat trick when you think about it. And here we go across the interstate. Good. Okay. And we're on still on Brevard Road, which is Highway 191, going south. And since I have to go to Brevard in Transylvania County, the land of waterfalls, as those of you who watch our series Waterfalls of the Southern Highlands knows, is this way, and it's only about 30 miles, and you got like 250 waterfalls within 30 miles of Asheville. So you have no excuse for not going to see them. They're beautiful. And well worth the trip. Another red light, but this is crossing Interstate 40. The last interstate we crossed was 240. And now we're down to where I-40 runs under Brevard Road. And about to the end of this test, in fact within mere seconds. So thanks for riding along. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.